All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to whatever this channel is. I'm eventually going to come up with a better name than just the GYOW Mando. But welcome to the show, and hopefully this will be something of interest to folks here that decide to watch this either tonight or in the future. Um, right off the top, I'm just going to let you all know I'm not on camera tonight, not directly, because I got a pretty good welt on my forehead from some young kids playing softball outside my apartment complex today. And where it rests is right where my helmet rests. So, VVB, I hope you're not offended, but say hello to the Mandalorian newscaster. um, if you all are curious, this entire stream is geared towards the concept of critical thinking and not not going too terribly not going too terribly crazy on what you see in the world. With all that said, we are going to bring in the panel. First and foremost, we got Tommy D. And additionally, we've got Sean St. George.
Hello.
And everyone's favorite 30-pound brain, Crusader Nate.
I don't know if I'd say I'm everyone's favorite, but what's up, guys?
And Polska, thank you for being here. And hey, I understand. If you can't stick around, I don't blame you. This topic matter is not going to be for everybody. So, the title of the stream is What is Old is New. This is something that a lot of people might have a little bit of a hard time with. The dinosaurs are accepted to have gone extinct about 65 million years ago. Humanity is generally accepted to have developed what we are currently classified as a civilization between about 12 and 15,000 years ago. That is a huge gap in time that other things could have happened. So, we're going to go over a couple of articles. We're going to discuss these articles, and then we're going to do a thought experiment as to what could potentially have happened to things that came before the modern world. And depending on how long we take on this, we might also discuss what things could look like if a major collapse occurs, to the point where we don't go back to the 1800s, but possibly as far back as the 1800s BC. So, unless any of you guys have something you wish to jump in with the initial thought on this topic, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first article we'll discuss.
Yeah, I'm good. Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Alrighty then. Let me figure out how to get my share screen to work, and we will go to the first article on this list. And I'm going to do this slightly out of order. We're going to talk about out-of-place artifacts. Now, the concept of out-of-place artifacts is these are found in locations, geologically speaking, where they do not have the appropriate context. These are things like the Antikythera mechanism, a computer that was found after or hidden inside a old shipwreck, the Baghdad battery, a battery that allegedly was created for electroplating many thousands of years ago. This diagram that a lot of people say looks like a light bulb used by the ancient Egyptians to create the pyramid, or the pyramids. Now, this is one that I had not heard about, the Great Wall of Texas. apparently in the 1850s, a group of Texas farmers found what appeared to be an ancient rock wall that is estimated to be between some 200 and 400,000 years old, which some believe to be natural and others believe to be made by some form of humanity. That really does fit quite nicely with where we're going on this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and bypass that because that goes well beyond when Earth actually had the
Yeah,
their capability of supporting life.
That's a natural phenomenon, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a portion of what's known as the Piri-Reis map, which we'll end up talking about the Piri-Reis map at a future stream if people are interested. But the concept here is that someone had a accurate map of Antarctica and South America before it was officially discovered. We will, like I said, if people are interested, we will talk about it at a future date. But for today, we're moving on. This 2,000-year-old earthquake detector, I can actually buy that this would have been created, especially by the Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
simply because they were very scientifically involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that one I have to say it does fit, even if it is a little more advanced than what we typically expect for that period of history.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
The 150,000-year-old pipes.
No, the 2,000-year-old.
Yeah. Again, this is another
The
thing
earthquake
that
detector.
Yep.
this is another thing that fits quite nicely in with what we're going to be talking about today, where apparently some caves in China contain pipes to a nearby lake that appear to have been dated to about 150,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
See, I wouldn't trust modern Chinese science. That one is a little too suspect.
I don't disagree, but all I'm going to point out is, yes, that could be a natural formation. That could be some kind of a volcanic pluming or something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Or when they did testing on the aging, they did it incorrectly.
Yeah. Well,
Also
you
possible.
can't carbon date rock.
No.
Nope.
All right, this is one of the ones that almost everyone knows about, the Antikythera mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently a 2,000-year-old mechanical device that may have been a computer. It appears to be a clockwork mechanism that was found in a Greek shipwreck a few years back. Okay, the drill bit and coal. I'm iffy about that one.
Yeah.
All right, these 2,000, I think these are said to be 2,000-year-old, okay, 2.8 billion-year-old spheres. Again, we're going to bypass that. They look neat. We can discuss them in a future stream if people are really wanting to revisit it. But it's possible this was found by native individuals in South Africa and were etched to be used as beads or some other kind of currency.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to go ahead and bypass that. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. An inscription from about 400 AD by a king whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, on the Iron Pillar of Delhi. This pillar is believed to be about 1,500 years old, but could be older. It remains rust-free and of astounding purity. It is 99.72% iron. And apparently only in modern times have we been able to get iron up to even close to that. But when we have iron of that kind of quality, it contains manganese and sulfur, two ingredients that we don't have in this particular item.
Mm.
Okay, a Viking sword that dates from about 8 to 1000 AD. but apparently this particular type of sword wouldn't have been available until about 800 years after this particular item was found or allegedly created.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you said 800 to AD, but that's still 800 years later.
Yeah. About
Oh, the
1800.
process. Probably the process that made
Yeah.
the sword.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I assume
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
The 100-million-year-old hammer, I've seen this one before. I'm not going to say it's been debunked, but it is definitely a goofy one. Apparently, they found a hammer encased in stone that had formed around 100 million years ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Okay, a prehistoric work site that apparently was found. It was found in France in the 18th century in limestone about 50 feet underground. Apparently, there were wooden instruments that turned into agate, a hard stone, and it could have formed around some modern tools that had been discarded.
Hmm.
Again, we're going to go ahead and bypass it. It's one of those things that it sounds cool. It fits the concept of out of place artifacts. An ancient bridge that was apparently created during the period of time of the ancient Indian epics.
If you're familiar with hotspot volcanoes, that's an easy explanation for that.
Yeah, yep, it is. Okay, a 500,000-year-old spark plug. All right.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think I've
one
heard
that
that
does
one.
fit within the timetable that we were talking about, so we can go ahead and dig into this a little bit. Apparently, in 1961, 3 people were out searching for geodes for their gift shop in California when they found what appeared to be a spark plug encased in a geode. One of the discoverers said at the time that a geologist examined the fossils around the device and dated it to about 500,000 years or older. However, the geologist was never named, and the artifact hasn't been found since, apparently.
Mhm.
Well, that really shoots the ability to critically
Yeah.
analyze that one in the foot.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Now, this last one is one that I've heard about a few times, and I've heard a couple of different contexts for it. A rock wall in the Bahamas. A wall of large, thick block shapes was found off the coast of the Bahamas in the 60s. It was estimated to be about 12 to 19,000 years old and built to protect a prehistoric settlement from waves. It is said to be a multi-tiered structure, including prop stones that appeared to be placed there by human hands. He also found what he believes to be anchor stones with rope holes in them. Now, for the age of it and it being in the Bahamas, yeah, I agree. That definitely classifies as out of place.
Maybe not, because that was during the period of the last ice age. So there
Yep.
was less water available. So obviously the
Right.
Bahamas would have stuck out a lot more than they already do now. And if there were prehistoric human civilizations there, they would be along the equator where there's warmth and fertility in soil because that's
Yeah.
all that's left.
True.
So it's just a theory. It probably did happen, but at the same time, depending on how big these the rocks are that made it, are we talking like Egyptian pyramid style, where it's even today we can't even actually knock down what
Well,
procedure we use to move 2-ton blocks
okay.
in primitive times.
Sean, St. Louis Arch brings up a good point. It's not just a wall off the Bahamas, but also what looks to be cobblestone streets.
Yeah, the Bimini Road,
Have
right?
you-
The Bimini Road.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
they try to make that a natural. I think officially it's a natural phenomenon. And I'm just like, yeah, I think you're
Well,
stretching it.
officially, most of what we're discussing is natural
Mhm.
phenomenon, according to geologists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
it's a much simpler and safer explanation than taking a risk and saying
Mhm.
no. this could be ancient humans before we started having records made on stone
Mhm.
that could
Well,
stand the
and the
test of
thing
time
is,
to go back and read or look and go, what the fuck is this?
and the thing is, with this entire subject tonight, you can see the disclaimer on the crawl on the bottom, gentlemen and ladies. That's there for a reason. Everything we're discussing is stuff that the scientific community likes to say doesn't exist. It's all conspiracy theory. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a historian. I just look at things that are very unusual and I ask questions. And St. Louis Arch, yeah, you are completely correct, and we are actually about to jump into that particular topic.
Oh, the Japan pyramid.
Mhm.
Jimmy Bones. I plan to do something about the Antarctic pyramids at a future time. It's
I
going to
think
have to be a full stream on nothing but Antarctica because there are a lot of
Yeah.
anomalous items on that continent.
Antarctica is just such a good content machine for just stories of true things and weird things.
Oh yeah, so that there's gonna at some point in the future there's gonna be an entire stream on nothing but bizarreness from the Antarctic continent.
That should be
Believe me,
fun.
I'm gonna have to do a lot of homework on that one before I go live on it, because otherwise I
Oh,
will be talking out of my
yeah.
fourth point of contact. And just for context for people that are interested, I kind of collect conspiracy theories. The weirder, the better. And everything we're talking about tonight, it's going to get weird. So,
Good weird though.
onto the next one, which whew, this should be fun. The real Atlantises, 7 sunken cities from around the world. Now, we are not going to touch Atlantis tonight because quite frankly, we could again do an entire stream on nothing but the theories, hypotheses, and what evidence there is for various locations to potentially be Atlantis. But we are going to start just going straight through this article, and anyone who is on Gilded, all 3 of the articles we're going over are listed in there. I know YouTube gets a little fruity about putting links in their descriptions and in the chats. So I'm kind of reluctant with this only being the 3rd stream to put anything super controversial in there for links. So I apologize. I don't currently have a website. I may do one in the future. But for now, Gilded's going to have to be the place to go. If you're not on Gilded, shoot me an email at the GYOW Mando, and I'll send you the links so you can look over this yourself. But for ancient sunken cities, there is a location outside of Egypt called Thonis Heraklion, where in the 1930s an RAF pilot flew over Abu Qir. If someone can pronounce that correctly, I would greatly appreciate the correction.
I think it's Kerr, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria and spotted something peculiar. Beneath the Mediterranean, he made out what appeared to be ruins. A few years later, archaeologists looked into it, and in the 90s and early 2000s, an entire city was found. The city dates back to about the 12th century BC. Has a complex network of waterways, temples to Egyptian gods, storehouses and other structures, There were plenty of steles, statues, amulets made of gold, bronze, and lead, as well as other objects like bowls and tools that were very well preserved. And apparently there were 2 additional shipwrecks found recently and another temple. It is thought that this went underwater because of natural disasters, earthquakes, and tsunamis. We will be touching on some of the myths that are out there later on in the stream when we get to the thought experiment stage of this. And it's going to get good. Okay, the city of Dwarka, India. For those of you that are familiar with Indian folklore, mythology, and religion, the city of Dwarka was supposed to be the terrestrial home of the Hindu god Krishna, and one of the 4 holiest sites of Hindu. And they believe that it dates back to roughly 10,000 years ago. Allegedly, after the god passed away, his city and its occupants sank into oblivion. Hindu sources described Dwarka as having unparalleled beauty and extravagance, palaces of extreme value, and some mythical statues. It also apparently was a very vital trading port and a gateway to the Arabian Sea. YouTube, I'm reading from the article. I'm not using my own terminology, so if you think that if you want to flag that for hate speech, look at the website. Archaeologists apparently began searching for the city in the mid-20th century, and it wasn't found in the 1980s. And when they found it, there were apparently pillars, walls, pottery, streets, and anchors. Possible causes for the city's demise include earthquakes, tsunami, or climate change. Or ancient nuclear weapon. Just saying.
But
Hey,
you're
if
not
you
the
heard-
only one who suggested that.
Oh, I know. There's a reason I brought that one up.
Anybody who's familiar with the Indian gods, War in Heaven sagas.
Oh, yeah.
You're familiar.
Yep.
Okay. I am going to murder this name. Xiqing, China.
Shishing.
Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the 1950s, the Chinese government decided to create an artificial lake as part of a major hydroelectric dam project.
Yeah.
The drawback, they had to submerge an ancient city dating back to 25 AD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to classify this as a modern sunken city because
Yeah.
they had records of this before they sank it, so we're
Mm-hmm.
moving on.
Still, to sink a 2,000-year-old city.
That is a forbidden city too.
Yeah, it was not until recently that they allowed divers to explore it.
Yep, because it was
Yeah,
an
it's in
emperor
such-
palace.
Yeah, it's in such good condition as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's another one that I'm probably going to murder the name of. Atlit Yam, Israel. I didn't do as bad as I thought I would. In Israel, 12 meters below the sea level, lies a 9,000-year-old Neolithic village. It is the world's oldest submerged site, allegedly, and contains one of the oldest cases of tuberculosis on record. Just how bad did your city have to be that is what you're known for?
The oldest case of tuberculosis.
Hey, someone has to claim it.
You're right. Somebody has to.
This almost makes me want to do a stream now on the worst reasons for a lost civilization to be remembered. Holy cow!
Oh no, there's probably a few good ones out there.
Oh yeah, plague cities, all that good stuff.
Okay, an Israeli archaeologist, or at least I'm assuming Israeli from the name, discovered the city in the 1980s. Researchers subsequently found 65 human remains in graves, houses, tools, and 7 megaliths forming a half circle. They also found remnants of plants, animal bones, and burial goods. But it is evidence of bovine tuberculosis that remains the most startling discovered to date. Scientists found the disease in the skeletal remains of a mother and baby. This outbreak was probably the result of animal domestication and husbandry practices.
Mm-hmm.
According to an Italian researcher, a possible volcanic eruption in Italy and the resulting tsunami might have been responsible for the city's destruction. Others believe that rising sea levels may be the culprit. Who wants to take a wild shot in the dark and say that rising sea levels might be the culprit behind a lot of these, according to certain scientific thought processes?
Rising sea levels and shoreline subsidence.
Yeah,
Oh, good lord.
Yeah.
because like a lot of these are around the what is it? During the
Young
last
Dryas.
ice age period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which a lot of
Exactly.
the fresh water and salt water you can't really freeze,
Mm-mm.
No.
but
It's
the
Okay.
gonna be
fresh
really
water
cold.
that because the ocean would have
Oh,
been
please tell
extremely
me
salty.
Rhino decided to join in because he might be able to pronounce this name.
That one I can't help
No,
you with.
he's not here.
Seftinge?
I got nothing.
Okay, I'm gonna phonics this, and I know I'm gonna butcher it. Anyone from the Netherlands who sees this in the future, I am so sorry.
That actually sounds Scandinavian.
It is. It's the Netherlands.
Saftinge. I'm gonna just go with Saftinge. That looks like the way it's supposed to be pronounced. The Netherlands. The Westerschelde Estuary in the Netherlands is a nature reserve of marshland full of plant and bird life, and it also hosts a thriving village that met a murky end in the 16th century. In the 1200s, the area was already waterlogged, and during the 80 Years' War, the village suffered some bad flooding, and apparently in about the 1750 or 1570s, everyone decided to leave. This one has a fun one. According to legend, the village's bad luck was the result of a merman's curse. The merman denounced the village for its cruelty and decadence, resulting in the All Saints flood. Today it is now referred to as the Drowned Land, and it is the largest tidal marshland in the Netherlands, encompassing 36 square miles of tidal land. The village itself, which included a castle, an abbey, a toll house, and ordinary houses, remained submerged in the wet mud somewhere. None have turned up yet, although archaeologists have found several small artifacts over the years. Have any of you ever watched the Lord of the Rings movies
Mm-hmm.
or read
No.
the novel?
Both.
Part of novels, but yeah.
I've read them all multiple times and watched the movies multiple times. So yes.
What do you want to bet the Drowned Lands was inspired by this city?
The Dread
Oh, it could
Marches. Yeah.
Yeah, because that sounds very similar. Just a random thing that popped into my brain pan. Sorry,
That's
guys.
possible.
Moving on. All right, Port Royal, Jamaica. Town from Pirates of the Caribbean was not entirely fictional. During the
No.
17th century, Port Royal became an important city, a center of trade and commerce. Unfortunately, it also gained a reputation for immorality and piracy. Sounds like a certain city in Nevada, doesn't it?
Mm,
Not
There's not a
quite,
lot-
because they
Yeah.
were separatists from the crowns or from the imperial powers that tried
I'm
to.
talking about the reputation and how it got started.
How it's perceived
Yeah.
is that way. Yes, whether it actually happened, I'm not sure.
mhm.
Because a lot of these people were just businessmen and naval mercenary ship. They didn't
Freelancers.
care who their
Privateers.
targets were. Yeah.
Privateers. Well, the privateer gave you a mark from the crown that allowed you to do it.
Well, the whole thing, the difference
Until they
between privateer,
repealed that mark and turned them
Mhm.
into a criminal enterprise instead of a
Right.
legalized
well,
criminal
the
enterprise.
whole difference between a privateer and a pirate is whether or not the people you are attacking recognize the mark as being legitimate.
State sponsorship.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just like Al Qaeda.
A license.
In the in the 1690s, it seems like the wrath of God descended on the town. A 7.5 magnitude earthquake shook the island and obliterated the city, killing over 5,000 people. Those who survived reported that 2/3 of the city slid into the sea. After the earthquake, a tsunami and a major landslide from ironically named Judgment Hill made matters worse. The city sank so quickly because it sat on loose sediment rather than a foundation of bedrock. These foundations prevented any plans to rebuild the city.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, excavations by Texas A&M found the well-preserved ruins. In order to scuba dive here, though, you need a special permit. While the old settlement lies beneath the waves, a fishing village, also called Port Royal, now sits on dry land nearby. And organizations have been advocating for the original town's reconstruction and resurrection. That seems like a
You
bad
can't
idea.
resurrect. You can't resurrect on sediment.
Sure, you can. The Dutch have done it for
Well,
years.
Who would build a
that just seems like a
town
bad
on
idea to me in
sediment?
general. That just seems like a bad idea to me in general, just because of the fact that, well, you don't name a naval vessel something different after you have decommissioned it and then recommission it.
Mm.
You don't.
That has happened, though.
Well, and if I remember right, those ships usually have very bad histories.
Yeah, they normally are one of the ones that go down after the second recommissioning under a new name.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure cities have a similar history where when something bad happens once, if you rebuild on it too many times, it's almost like God is saying, yeah, you're not building here, move somewhere else.
Mm.
Curse land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's the land that Troy exists on, as far as they know, is salted earth, and it's unfertile. It's done.
Yeah. Okay, the Lost Villages of Ontario. Up in Canada, the St. Lawrence Seaway in the 1950s was granted access to the Great Lakes from the Atlantic. God, I've read that badly. A major achievement, but at the cost of 10 submerged villages. Okay, I'm assuming this is very much like that Chinese city, so we're going to go ahead and bypass it. And that is all of that.
St. Louis Arch mentioned one that, Doggerland,
Yeah.
which used to be an above ground, was it plateau or
Yeah,
marsh that
I've heard
connected Britain to mainland Europe.
Mhm.
I've heard stories about that, which I haven't gone a huge amount of detail about it, but I've heard
Yeah.
rumors that at one point in time the British Isles and the mainland of Europe were fairly tightly connected to the point where they could have actually had, or if they had modern technology, they could have built a bridge between the two spits of land.
Yeah, that's still way too much of a
Well, I'm
feat
saying
today with modern tech. Well,
Yeah.
it only takes money.
yeah, I'm just
The
saying
tech is there.
allegedly.
It just takes motivation and money to get the
Well,
job done.
Again, I'm just
And
saying
labor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying allegedly a few hundred years ago, allegedly there was the tech that, or not the tech, but the distance that they could have done that more easily.
Yeah, but I think Doggerland sank thousands of years ago, if not up to 1 million. Otherwise, the Romans would have used it.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we have
Okay.
to take into consideration, with a lot of these bodies and towns and things being underwater today, water levels in areas change all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Having grown up around the Great Lakes myself, I've seen water levels within my own lifetime go up 5 or 6 feet. So
Yeah.
for it to change greater than that in a century or more, I don't find that surprising one bit at all.
And everything we're talking about has occurred in the last, I'm going to say 20,000 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
all of it, I keep going back to that because part of what we're going to be discussing is what could a civilization have looked like before what we know as modern civilization.
Hmm.
But we will get to that in a moment. I'm going to go through and zap a few of these chats, bring them up, because unlike certain people, I try not to completely ignore the chat. I'm not that great with it yet, but I do try.
Hmm.
So, St. Louis Arch,
Jimmy's gotten better though.
the pyramids thing is something that I am going to address on a future stream, because there's a few different theories about that, and I don't want to bog this one down too much. Jimmy, I'm not going to throw that up there. No offense, buddy. Yes, we are only mentioning a small sliver of what has been found off the coasts in different parts of the world. Because if we were just to talk about sunken cities today, it would be the entire stream. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, it's
And it would be a
many-
long stream. There's too many of them
Oh,
out
yes,
there.
it would. It would definitely be longer than the 2 hours I like to go with. And Jimmy, you sent a correction right after this one. You actually had it right on this first one. According to folklore, male merfolk are mermen, female merfolk are mermaids. I know that's incredibly transphobic. Take it up with the mer people. Not me.
Not my issue. Not going to be discussed tonight.
Yep.
Exactly. And St. Louis Arch brought up the entire thing that I was talking about, so I'm glad to see that someone beat me to the punch there. Broken Pine, welcome to the show. Hopefully it's something that you're
Hey,
interested
Pine.
in. Okay. Also, anyone in the chat, if there is anything weird, esoteric, and won't get me flagged by YouTube to get slapped in the PP square, then put it in the chat. If it's something I have a fascination with, I will do some research, and I might make a stream out of it or incorporate it into a future stream. These guys can tell you if you're not on Gilded. I put together a poll with 3 different topics that, or 3 different sets of topics that I'm more than happy to bring up today.
Well, all 3 of them would
And
be
this is the
good
one-
streams. It's just this one managed to win out this time.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And all of them are ones that I will talk about in the future. I just don't know when.
Right.
Okay. This last one we're going to talk about is probably the most controversial. It's the one that causes the most arguments among people who know about it. That one, St. Louis Arch, I'm going to be honest with you, that one is a special case.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many theories about Göbekli Tepe. We might have to do a stream focused on it specifically.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be much more interesting than Stonehenge.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
though allegedly
probably.
they're contemporaneous.
Right. But Stonehenge has been so overhyped over the years, it's just freaking boring content anymore. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now,
and the
before I bring
fucking
this up,
hippies took it over.
but
Oh,
before I bring this
no.
next topic up, we are not going the ancient aliens route.
Okay, fair enough.
Damn it. I was going to wear my makeup and make my hair stand on end.
Wait, you're George? Does Tesfapawalas.
Yeah, whatever the
Nobody
hell
can
it-
pronounce his
Wait.
name.
Okay, I bring this this particular item up because I have my own theory about this, and I will bring up the theory after bringing up what has been discussed in the article. I've
Mhm.
already mentioned it to the guys on the panel.
Mm,
I more than welcome you all taking and poking holes in it and nuking it. If my theory can't stand up on its own evidence, it deserves to be shredded. But here we go. Last topic for the share, and then we're going to go into Crazy Train land.
And that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Anybody
the
hear
Black Knight
Ozzy Osbourne in the
satellite.
background yet?
great song.
Yep.
Okay. Is there an alien satellite spying on Earth from orbit? That is the question at the core of the Black Knight satellite mystery. And while scientists have refuted the notion as a conspiracy theory, it's one that continues to garner support. It is theorized that there is a 13,000-year-old alien spy satellite or spacecraft orbiting Earth. Allegedly, NASA satellites have inspected it, but only a few people know the truth about it. Beyond this, it's difficult to discern one cohesive theory as to the existence of this object, and most argue it is merely a myth made up of disparate, unrelated stories. As much as I buy into the fact that it's real, I have to give that credit. There are so many things floating around about this object, it's entirely possible that it is a conflation of a lot of different stories.
Hmm.
Like I said, if my theory cannot withstand critical thought and critical analysis, it deserves to be reevaluated. We're going to talk about the origins, and that's where we're going to stop with this topic because the Black Knight, it's something that can be revisited quite a few times. The most allegedly in 1899, Nikola Tesla found or received a message from what he believed to be extraterrestrials. He recounted to various newspapers that he had been conducting an unrelated wireless power experiment at his home in Colorado Springs when he believed he received radio signals which he interpreted as greetings of one planet to another, according to an article he wrote in Collier's Weekly in 1900. In 1923, he told another newspaper that the most likely source was intelligent life on Mars, and he hypothesized that the message was numerical, stating that he believed Martians used numbers for communications because numbers are universal.
Hmm.
The scientific community has since offered numerous naturally occurring explanations for Tesla's signals, and most notably that they were emanated by spinning neutron stars or pulsars. Signals from pulsars are detectable from Earth, but were only discovered in the 1960s. Okay. I am going to move on to or skip past some of this to see. Okay, there is a alleged photo of the Black Knight, which I don't think I have on this article. I do not. Okay, allegedly
See if I
there
can
is a
track it
photograph
down.
of the satellite that shows it being a hard object that may or may not be an actual intelligently designed piece of equipment. It has been hand waved away as a solar sail from the old Skylab satellite. It has been said to be just random space debris. It has been said to be pretty much anything but a intelligent satellite. Here is my theory about what the Black Knight is. And this is where we're going to start delving into mental experience or experiment land. Assuming I can talk.
You'll figure it out, buddy. It's all good.
At some point in the distant past, a intelligent species in this solar system, possibly on this planet, possibly somewhere else, launched a craft that went to the Bootes constellation, or what we currently know as the Bootes constellation. It went there, took some data, and came home. It got here in the early 1900s, and allegedly was transmitting to people who may or may not have been able to receive it. One person received it, but was not able to intelligently, to the satellite's methodology, transmit back. When that individual passed away and a certain organization took possession of his papers, it was swept under the rug until the modern space program was able to go up there and take a look at this thing and try to hide it from public view. Again, all of this is conjecture, all of this is theory. It could be full of garbage. It could be valid. It's for you all to decide.
Ooh. Yeah, no, that. Nate,
Yeah.
speed of light. What distance is that? Is that still 22,000 miles?
It is.
Yeah, I believe so, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because okay, maybe I looked up the wrong thing because I was looking up the distance because you're talking about how it may have been a satellite from the 1300s.
No,
What I'm looking at, it says it's 197,000 light years, but it's saying it is the galaxy or the dwarf galaxy is that far away under the constellation topic. So
yeah, again, this
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying it was that constellation, but that's what the most accepted theory for the origin of this thing is, that it came from somewhere in that general neck of the woods, galactically speaking.
Oh, I was just thinking about the propulsion part of it.
Oh, I know. And there is actually a thought process that we could get a satellite up to, with our modern tech, to about 1/10 of the speed of light, and get it to our nearest stellar neighbor and have it come back. Oh, Sean St. George was kind enough to bring up some imagery of the Black Knight. And I'm going to go ahead and call one of these up real. I'm going to go ahead and share my
You
screen.
got to look
so
at
you
some
guys
of them because some of them are definitely artist renditions or models that look like they're real.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it does have a couple of them that I have seen before.
Yeah.
This one in particular.
Yeah.
I've seen this one on multiple sources, and that is one of the ones that is thought to be the most realistic depiction of the satellite itself, if it's real.
Oh, actually, I'm
Looks to
scouring.
me-
I found an image. It's a NASA image.
Okay.
I'm dropping the private chat.
Yeah, go ahead. Anything,
There you go.
anything I'm bringing up that you guys find something that you have a better data
Date
point for?
taken 12/11/1998.
Oh yeah, this is one of the well-known ones.
Yeah.
And this is the one that they like to say is from the this is the one they like to say is a shield from, or shroud or shield or something from the old Skylab set or space station.
Allegedly, I may or may not have known somebody that was involved in the early stages of NASA, who is deceased now. And from everything he has told me of what was going on in the very early days of NASA, they were randomly throwing different things into space just to see what it would take to get things up there.
Yep.
But
How long they would stay up there, rate of decay of orbit, etc.
Oh, yeah.
How far they can launch things up to get it to actually sit in a geosynchronous orbit before it coming down and tracking it. However, we'll just call this guy Bob. I actually
knew
showed
him
him this
too?
image. Yeah. Let's call him Bob.
Okay.
A lot of people showed him this image, and allegedly he claimed anything we sent up was sent up in a different color and a different, more aerodynamic shape that would have been easier to send up and would have come down in a different pattern, which would have slowed it down enough to make it visible when it re-entered lower atmospheres.
Okay, so in theory, that object might actually be something that is not of modern society origin.
Not that we are currently aware of.
Or
Okay.
terrestrial.
Let's save ET for later, because this is already going to get weird, gentlemen. And I
Theoretically, it could. Theoretically, it could be an iron derivative chunk that may or may not have fallen off of a comet or something and got sunk and stuck inside of the geosynchronous orbit quite easily, because if you look at it, it's got some semi-sharp edges. It's a oblong shape. If you have a comet hit something or another one or another fragment break off of it due to speed and rotation, I mean, that would be... I mean, I would buy that explanation more, faster than anything. Oh, it's a part of a comet that fell off when it came by Earth, and it's just stuck in our orbit now.
Yeah, got stuck in the gravity well.
Yep. Hey,
Right. That's
all of
the
those
simplest
are valid
explanation.
theories. All of it.
Yeah, even with our primitive space exploration tech, we should still be able to do a manned or unmanned mission to go look at it.
How big is it?
Allegedly, it's about the size of a school bus. Allegedly.
It'd be too erratic. There's no way we'd be able to put a manned... There'd be the risk of loss of life, number one. Number two, something that size in that area with very little stability up at that range. I mean, if you looked at it wrong, it can completely flip or rotate or change completely. There's no way they could actually get something close enough to it that wouldn't disrupt its orbit or change its orbit in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Okay.
MM4356 has a nice theory here.
Just saying. I mean, it's possible.
I've never seen a manhole cover that was that large.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry.
Not specifically on topic, but something that is kind of an interesting little tidbit of information. When they did the first atomic bomb test at Trinity, the scaffolding where that atomic bomb was didn't actually completely vaporize. There were actually pencil-sized fragments of that scaffolding thrown many, many, many miles away.
Yep.
And people got cancer picking them up.
Yep.
Oh, of course.
As Jimmy would say.
If you guys ever get the chance, man, to look into it, also the green glass rock created at that test is highly prized.
Oh, we can go there with our theory crafting tonight.
Yeah.
Because that is called vitrification. There are entire plains in India and the Middle East that are vitrified sand. That are allegedly over 12,000 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
These don't have
Well-
impact. These don't have impact craters associated with them.
Yeah. All right, Tommy. Seeing as you are much more the electronics expert than myself, during Nikola Tesla's era, most of those guys, amateur radio operators, were operating anywhere from 10 all the way up to 60 meters, 200 meters, even all the way down to a range of about 1500 kilohertz.
Okay.
At that, from what my limited studying is, if you listen on the amateur radio at about 1500 kilohertz or anywhere in the 120, 160 meter band range, you can actually hear galactic noise. You can hear sounds, and there are little ticks and there are little hums and there are little indications and things like that that could be misconstrued as a Morse code signal that may have subsequently came into a sequence that would mirror what would be our modern Morse code numbers, which is what he may have heard, or very similar.
Yes.
So
yeah, numeric language, Morse code sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically speaking, we could debunk that one right out of the gate. I mean, I've put up a 160 meter antenna, and I've actually listened to it. You can hear things on 40 meters, on 20 meters, 60, 80 meters. You just have to listen very carefully, and you can actually pick up. It's kind of a funky sound, and you can hear little chirps and little ticks and little minor details. And even with software-defined radios, you can actually use a Morse code decoder, and it will actually start randomly pulling up letters and numbers out of Morse code.
Okay.
And a
So it
lot
could
of
have
it
been
can be
galactic noise.
thought. Yeah, a lot of it can be thought to be naturally occurring. In other words, galactic noise.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that several times over the years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, gentlemen, we have gone over the articles portion of this. Setting the ground rules again for anyone joining us late. We have from about 50 million years ago, about 15 million years after the dinosaurs got deleted, till roughly, just for giggles, we're going to say 25,000 years ago, just to give a nice window for humanity not to have bumped into anything. What kind of life forms do you think could have theoretically risen on this planet, gotten to a state of civilization that's close to where we're at, and then died out for whatever reason?
I got a good one right off the bat.
All right.
And it's going to be misogynistic and terrible.
Well, when have we not been accused of that?
Well,
I'm listening.
My theory is you're all familiar with Lucy.
Yes.
First
I think
hominid.
so.
Yes.
Okay.
The first hominid that, what's his bucket, the asshole, discovered in Africa. They figured that she was injured in some sort of fall, maybe from a tree, maybe from a hill. I just want to stipulate that I believe what this shows is women are still clumsy bitches, and it's her fault.
So you're thinking another form of hominid species might have generated, or might have.
Yeah, I think the guys were like, we need to get some help for these women because they just keep falling over themselves and busting their shit up.
Well,
so you think that so your working theory is that we're the tail end of whatever hominids came before, and that we've just developed into what we are, and certain aspects of the species have managed to develop, and others not so much.
We're not the first human-like species on the planet. There have been several different types. We just happen to be the only ones that survived.
That we know of.
That we were aware of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in the jungle somewhere, there's still probably like a hobbit race that still exists that we just don't bother looking for.
Well,
and we're not getting into Bigfoot.
I was going to say this is going to be more of the cryptid
Yeah.
stream that I'll end up doing at some point in the future, but
Mm-hmm.
there's theories about Bigfoot, there's the skunk ape,
Hmm.
and then there's
Yeah.
the worst hominid cryptid of all, the intelligent Democrat.
Oh, you went there already.
That does not
Oh,
exist.
I love it.
You said intelligent and Democrat in the same sentence. That is an oxymoron, sir, and it does not exist.
Well,
So it's just like military intelligence.
Yes.
Oh dear God, am I? No,
yeah.
fuck
Well,
that.
let's kind of look at what we, dial back a few thousand years of what we are aware of modern humans. There are, from what we're aware of, the Fertile Crescent right around the equator is where what we find as modern day humans current point of origin that we are
Yeah.
aware of.
The first
Now-
settlements, we could say yes.
Yes, that's what within, let's say, 20 degrees, north or south of the equator. That was the prime zone. That was the Goldilocks zone for what we were aware of as modern humans to develop. Now, with that being said, we have seen evidence of polar shifts repeatedly in Earth. Usually, I believe it's 26,000 year cycles when we have ice ages, and that matches pretty close to rotations and changes in a polar shift.
There's a theory that we're actually in the middle of one of those right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not like a sudden thing that happens, because if it did,
No.
we'd all be thrown out into the void of space.
Well, some will, some won't. Some will get smashed into the earth, and others will be thrown off at
Oh,
about
yeah.
20 to 30,000 miles an hour.
Hmm.
St.
Yeah,
St.
well, they're going
however-
to turn into jelly.
Yeah.
St. Louis Arch brings up an interesting one. I'll just lay that up there to marinate for everybody.
Jesus.
Well, I don't know about hot chick, but crazy, yeah.
She was pretty.
Uh,
But I wouldn't call her a hot chick.
It would
She
be,
was
she'd be
cute.
hard to say no if she just started sitting on your lap.
I would. I mean, Pop would still give her a 4, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's definitely a 4 because she's crazy as fuck. Anyway,
Right.
Moving on.
What?
though.
Yeah, moving on. If we look at this, let's say modern hominids were staying within 20 degrees north or south of the equator. Now, if you take the Earth and you shift that 90 degrees, what is now Antarctica would be within that 20 degree north or south of the equator. That would have fallen right in there. We've already seen continental drift. We've already seen tectonic shifting and changing. So the way we see Earth now is not the way it was 10,000, 20,000 years ago.
Yep.
Not only that, but if we look at the changing and the shifting of the Earth, and with the last ice age we are aware of that formed the Great Lakes, there's so many things that have been. How do we know what's not buried underneath what is now the Great Lakes that was bulldozed by the last ice age that
Glacial
created the
action.
Great Lakes?
Glaciers.
hmm
Although, all that glacial action and everything could have changed the landscape. There could have been something here that was completely bulldozed by the last glaciers
hmm
that came through. I mean,
Okay,
there's
that
so
gets-
Familiar with Armored Skeptic?
sounds familiar.
It's Greg Kluwer, if I got the name right. Makes a bunch of different things, but something he's been on about is like the mudpocalypse. Like, I guess
Mhm.
his theory puts like the timetable a little too close to modern times where it could be easily recorded. But allegedly, there's just been the Earth has been flooded by mud or sediment many, many times over many possible civilizations.
Well, he was one of the.
MM43 brings up a question that you might be able to take a look at.
Yeah.
Well, like even here
He's
in
not wrong.
Alaska, we still have natives still do that. Granted, very little of them still do it, but they're well above the Arctic Circle the way it is now. And Yeah, it would surprise me if the North and South poles actually did have, well, just like what Nate was saying, when Antarctica was within the Goldilocks zone during the last ice
Yeah.
age, people speculated that Antarctica is, or once was, an extremely fertile continent.
Yeah, like I said, we are going to end up. I am going to end up doing an entire stream focusing strictly on Antarctica at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understand that the Goldilocks,
there are a lot of anomalies down there.
yeah, but going over that Goldilocks zone, 20 degrees north or south of the equator, no matter what landmass moves and shifts and changes and rotates within that Goldilocks zone around the equator, that's where life has always been, I guess you can say, more easily sustainable for growing, and it's not going to be as harsh as it is when you get about the 45th parallel. So I could see the continents shifting, tectonic plates shifting, moving things around, and dispersing small populations. Because what we're aware of, modern hominids now that we see on Earth, yeah, there was a genetic modification that created the shorter in stature individuals that wound up going over towards the east, which then there's an island outside of, not too far away from it, I think it's Taiwan, that had like the average height was like 3 or 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah,
all
I heard about that.
They've all died and gone away. Case in point, OCA1, OCA2 gene within the 16th and 17th human chromosome are the ones that the genetic it's a mutant gene that gives humans blue eyes, and that was actually traced back to the shores of the Black Sea about 10,000 years ago. So there's bodies that have been found in Russia that are in museums that they're not letting anybody examine or carbon date or test. I mean, they're releasing photographs of them, but they go back 10 to 20, 30,000 years, but they're not letting any outside sources examine them. So you have cases like that. Kennewick Man is about 9,600 to 10,000 years old in Washington. So you have multiple examples of humans in different stages and different phases. There was just one found in France, if I remember correctly, that is close to 30,000 years old. The skeleton was found in a cave. So there's a lot of different possibilities, and the tectonic plates keep shifting. All the land masses are shifting, flooding, other things. There's all that, and there's also stories of a major flood that hit Earth and changed and shifted all the tides and changed everything else. In areas of the Sahara Desert, there's actual signs in the ground where it looks like a major tidal wave came over and washed over the entire Sahara Desert. The only way that could have happened is a tidal wave that would have been, I believe, 6 to 8 miles tall. The only way you're going to get something like that is a major 90-degree shift in the poles.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if something like that would have happened, you would have had a mass extinction event of any kind of species on land.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, since every civilization that we know currently on this earth has at least one major flood myth.
Yep.
Would you call that kind of an ancestral memory, basically?
Yeah.
I guess you could, yeah, with enough. Well, we make, I think, a possible poor assumption that all those societies had mostly verbal storytelling as how they passed down their knowledge. Because if we're talking about civilizations that were older that could have been wiped out, it's been speculated, humans have had so many times on this earth, we either keep biologically nuking each other, actually nuking each other. Somehow we become like the own demise of our own species, and then for some reason we pop up again.
That's kind of why I threw a little part in there on the crawl down below. What has happened before will happen again.
Mm-hmm.
But just like also Plato's Atlantis story, is more of a metaphor for being wary of decadence.
Hmm.
Yes.
than it ever was supposed to be a retelling of a historical event.
Well,
Well,
here's
But
here's
who knows
something
where he heard the story or if he just made it up in his head. Because he had to hear it from somewhere.
here's something I'd like to point out. And this literally just popped into my brain pan as we were talking about this. And you guys might want to think about this. In the red pill community, there's the phrase that's been getting thrown around a lot, especially in recent years. Good men make, or strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. Bad times make strong men.
And the cycle repeats.
With the theory that you're talking,
right.
could that be a species / cultural thing?
Mm.
Yes, quite easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
we're seeing it being played out kind of as a microcosm now in the United
Yeah.
States. But
Mhm.
if that's being done globally as well, which is
Mhm.
why the Bible and a lot of other religious texts have such a strong prohibition against a central global government,
yeah.
could a lot of these apocalyptic prophetic books be a warning that, hey, we did this is what it led to, you're going to F it up again if you do it?
Or we did this
Yeah.
and this happened. We don't know why. I mean, yeah, it's open for conjecture for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's open to speculation. Now let me throw this out there. Those of us that are Generation X, so to speak, our parents were baby boomers.
Mhm.
Generation X did not learn all the skills from our parents. Our parents did things that their parents, the greatest generation, didn't do. You know, and if you go back generation after generation after generation, I mean, the very first people who owned motor vehicles, they were ones who were able to adjust the valves in their own cars. Would Generation X have a great understanding of keeping and maintaining livestock in their yard, canning and pickling and operating without a refrigerator? I mean, we are in an age of decadence. We are actually losing those skills that allowed our great grandparents to survive. The ability to operate a two-man saw to cut down trees. How many guys out there that are in their 30s and 40s? Yeah, it may have been near the end of their lifetimes, but those guys were the ones that were able to build a house. They were able to woodwork. They were able to cut down and chop down trees. They were around building fires and canning and pickling things. I mean, not everybody had microwaves back then.
Well, there were no
Indoor
microwaves.
Exactly my point. So if in just 100 years, if people a guy that's, let's say, 40 years old 100 years ago and a guy 40 years old now, if you were to put both of those guys side by side together, are they both going to have the same skills and the same knowledge base?
No.
No.
Heck no.
They're
Okay.
going to have different sets separated by the gap in their eras. But just like something that we saw in the military, map reading skills degraded significantly to the point where it was no longer being taught in basic training, or basic training goes over it, but they don't do the obstacle courses. It's being removed from schools or advanced leadership schools because there's an over reliance on GPS and digital mapping instead of taking a physical map. And
I'm so glad you bring that up.
I'm not the only one who experienced it.
I have in my possession a set of the 1980s radiation calculators, the slide rule discs.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I got some in storage, like the old calculator ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the soldier who's going to be taking over for me when I officially retire out of the service will be inheriting those.
Yeah.
And when I first showed it to him, he was like, "How do I use this, and why do I need to know it?" And what I did was I handed him a Radiac system and told him, "You've just been hit by a nuke. What do you do?"
Mm-hmm.
He takes out the Radiac. I'm like, your Radiac was hit by debris and is broken. How do you calculate the radiation damage?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
he
you
couldn't.
go ahead. Yeah.
Well, no, he couldn't. And I was like, you use this, and you can calculate to a fair degree whether or not you're in the danger zone.
Yeah. And that's just the point I was making prior. These are just current examples and specific examples of things within our own lifetimes. Now, go and talk to somebody in their 80s or 90s and talk to them about baking bread in a wood fire oven. They didn't
Mhm.
have natural gas. They do now, but they didn't when they grew up. My grandmother's in her 90s. She continuously tells me stories of when she only went to 6th grade in school, and it was in a one-room schoolhouse, and she used to do her homework by an oil lamp.
Yep.
She's still alive.
Mhm.
And she's told me stories about her parents, her grandparents, and things that they knew how to do. How many people today know how to pluck the goose down off of a goose to make a pillow or a mattress?
I do.
Well,
The
but
thing is, that's a dying skill,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that
exactly.
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that because it's a skill we no longer need. I'm saying that because it's a skill that the people who know it are literally dying out.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. So,
And the only
that's
people
just
who
within
really do know these skills now are the survival enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
right. And
Now,
if that's just
Very
within the
evil.
past
Oh my
century,
God.
if that's just within the if that's just people within the last century where that base of knowledge has been lost, what's happened in the past 150 years,
okay,
200
so
years?
Mhm.
so
Oh,
let's
like herbal medicine.
Mhm.
okay, let's roll this back to where I was going with this conversation. Let's say
Okay.
about 20,000 years ago is more or less when modern humans started rubbing sticks together, making fire, and building communities.
Mhm.
Okay.
Since we all know that we've got that 50 million year gap that we're playing around with, more than enough time for
Yeah.
humans to develop into anatomically modern humans.
Mhm.
I hate that term, but we're going to use it just to keep the science people from knocking down my door.
Yeah.
Could
Actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
theoretically there have been a society to the point that we are at right now? I'm literally to the point where they had their equivalent of the internet, their equivalent of the English language, their equivalent to NASA, their equivalent of Lizzo,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
all of a sudden something happened that destroyed that technological society.
Yes, quite easily.
How would that, in your opinion, would the information that survived have been recorded as things that eventually became myth, legend, and religious text?
Yes.
I can see that happening.
But
that's
that's
assuming
probably
enough
the
of it
simplest
survived.
solution to it.
Nuke 'em.
Yeah.
So if we use Occam's razor, I literally have just solved that riddle.
Yes.
Ah, red pills here.
Yeah, he's not wrong though. Finding your channel is not the easiest.
No, I'm going to be putting in a poll on Gilded with a few different alternative channel names because I did my own searches for it and found that it is not. It wants to keep bringing up the Disney Channel thing with the same name, which I did
Yeah.
it. I based it. I did it. I based it off of it, but yeah, I'm going to be working on that.
Yeah. Well, minor details. I mean, we're always a work in progress.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
Yes.
case in point. Let's look at where we are in modern society today.
Okay.
Look at how heavily we depend on electricity, batteries, solar, wind generation computers. How many people out there actually have memorized phone numbers and not just put them in their phone book? Vast
I have.
majority
I
of
grew
I
people.
up in
remember
the
doing
80s.
that.
Yeah,
It was such a
I still
big
do.
deal when the little Nokias came out with a contact list, and you could save
Yes.
10 contacts.
Right. But look around. Most people today don't memorize numbers. They have a cell phone with them. They put the number in it. They never remember it. It's always programmed into their phone.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
Have
problem.
3 or 4.
People today
Remember.
are living life on easy mode.
Yes. Case in point.
Hang
Go
on
ahead,
one
Meta.
second, Crusader.
Yeah.
Rhino, you do have an invite in our private chat on Gilded. If you want to jump in and add your 2 cents on our little thought experiment, you're welcome to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
probably here in about 10 minutes, once we start getting to the point where we're talking over the same point over and over again, I might go ahead and drop the guild or the link into the chat here, so that way, if anyone else who's in the audience has a theory that they would like to drop in for posterity purposes, they can do so. But go ahead and continue, Crusader.
All right. Case in point. Look at how heavily we depend on electronic devices. What would happen if all of our electronic devices just got fried? People think EMP. That's not the first thing I think of. In 1859, there was something called a Carrington event.
Mm-hmm.
They were
That was
able,
a CME,
due to,
right?
yes, it
Yes,
was.
it was. It was a massive solar flare that
Yep.
basically pimp slapped the planet.
Mm-hmm.
There's records of them seeing the northern lights, the aurora borealis, in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would have
And
been.
it went.
It's not the aurora borealis. Then it is a different name
those
for
are
the
different names.
southern
Yeah.
lights. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Aurora Australis.
But
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing, just a different name. But they were seeing it all around the globe. If something like that were to happen, we would be partying like it's 1850 all over again. Your microwaves wouldn't work. Most of your electronic stuff, all your almost everything wouldn't work. So if something like that, look at everything that's stored in hard drives now. Look at everything that's stored online, all the cloud storage. If something like that were to happen and fry all those hard drives and all those server farms everywhere, what do we have? We have spoken language. We have what people remember and pass on to others. We have nothing more than oral history.
And we have whatever a lot of paranoid people decide to print off and keep in hard copy.
Yeah.
Or like I use this just to write down stuff. Just journals, either journals from personal ones to, hey, I need to write this down, so I need to learn how to do this again. Like I got one of these as a recipe book. So that I can go back and reference it, especially when I'm refining recipes to either get time and temperature right, or what is it? Portioning of ingredients. Portioning is not the right word. Measurements.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and shift this over to a life after technology thought process. We're not going to worry about how it happened. All we're worried about right now is the aftermath of this massive event.
Yeah.
Something occurs tomorrow. Actually, no. Something occurs tonight after all of us have gone to sleep. We wake up in the morning, reach to pick up our cell phones, and it doesn't work. We go to turn on our clock or turn on our coffee maker. It doesn't work. Your bedside lamp doesn't work. You step outside, and we're going to go ahead and do a hypothetical and say that no one's car is working. All technology above, I'm going to say about 1890 is either on fire or inoperable. How long do you think it would take for the society that we have today to degenerate to something that could look very similar to an ancient society in the way that they operated?
24 to
quickly would you-
72 hours.
Well, that's before the chaos hits.
Yeah.
You have 24 to 72 hours before everybody runs out of like current stockpiles of things, and that's when people start.
And
to
that's when the
panic, is at that
pandemonium
point.
starts happening.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, people adjusting to the, let's say, the 1850s lifestyle probably wouldn't hit until probably 6 months to a year after that,
Mhm.
because
So,
not many people are going to be aware of, hey, I need to figure out a way of acquiring, if I live in a climate where I need to have a wood burning stove to heat my residence,
Mhm.
how am I going to
Mhm.
do that? How am I going to find, who do I know that knows how to can, pickle, and preserve foods?
Right. Who do I know
How
that
can I
has
do that?
seeds to grow my own
Yes.
foods?
Yes. And that's probably not going to happen until about 6 months after that event
Mhm.
occurs.
Mhm.
Maybe a year.
okay, so all right, hypothetically, we've gotten to the point where, let's say a year after event X occurs.
Mhm.
How much of the population will we have lost? Just
50.
snowball, or just a shotgun.
50%. 50% are
70 to,
dead.
I would say
Yeah,
70
I
to
think that-
75% of the population will be gone after 1 year after an event like that would happen.
Well, and you got to
Okay.
look at it because the cities are where all the density is. So the cities are going to fall first.
Yes.
Okay. So 1 year after, we've lost. We're going to go ahead and we're going to say about 60%. That it might be a little on the high side, but we got to take into consideration the age of the overall age of the population and the overall health of the population.
hmm
So
Yeah. The elderly and the youngest will be gone.
so
Well, the youngest that wasn't taken care of by proper
Yes.
adults.
Yes.
okay, so
Yes.
we're gonna assume about 70%. We're gonna assume about 6 out of 10 people that you know right now
Mhm.
are no longer on the map.
They're gone.
They just got Thanos snapped out of existence.
Yep. Yeah.
How long will it be before people have to start recongregating in areas that are easier to cultivate food, acquire water, and acquire other essential resources?
Oh yeah, I'd have to start moving south immediately because
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's going to be extremely difficult to survive in Alaska without certain leisures that we currently have. I mean, granted, we
yeah.
could probably figure out a way to just build a cabin structure, have a little area for our extremely short growing season, but we would have to learn how to subsist off of sea life because everybody's going to
Mhm.
move back to the coast. They're not going to stay inland because they're not going to get access to edible plant life or and the state is just so vast. You're
Well,
unless you know the migrations of elk and other game species, you're going to starve real quick.
mhm. And
Yep.
Okay,
Sean,
If you
so-
go to the coast, you have or get near a river source, you have the
Yeah.
ability to have fish, but
mhm.
you can't subsist off of that forever. Your body is going to die eventually.
I'm
Yep.
going to use a term that some people take offense to, but I'm using the
Mhm.
dictionary definition of this term. Do you suspect that Aboriginal peoples will have an easier chance of adapting to this particular
Hands
type
down.
of?
Yes.
Yes, because
Hands
they
down.
still have handed down knowledge how to live without the leisure of technology.
Mhm.
Whether
Yes.
any of the kids paid attention or not, that's up for debate. But
Okay,
because a lot of this is considered tradition, like they have because they've been doing this for thousands of years before modern technology or before what is it? Oh God, Roxy, quiet down. All right, I'm going to finish my point real quick, and then I'm going to take her outside. They've been doing it for so long, and they have such deep-rooted tradition that they still continue to do it, even with modern tech, even before they got influenced by Europeans. Like here in Alaska, they're still extremely. They're the only ones really who have carte blanche to subsist off of wildlife here.
Mhm.
The rest
Mhm.
of us folks have to get licenses, and
Tags.
then it's a lottery
hmm
Yeah.
for a lot of game. Like moose, you can't get moose unless you win a lottery for a tag.
hmm
While
Okay.
the natives, they're allowed to freely do it, but of course, economic. I think I have that right. Not economy, but ecology. Preservation is something that has been ingrained in them and ingrained in their culture. Never
Mhm.
take more than what you need out of the pool.
Yep.
Give back, replant, etc. And on that note, I'm gonna go take this dog out so she quits whining.
Okay.
Actually, Mando, why don't we do a quick break? Because it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, I don't have a break video yet.
It's all
so
good. That's all good.
it-
Just say,
feel-
hey.
So yeah, everyone go ahead and pop off. We'll take
Mhm.
about 5 minutes, then come back in and do a couple more scenarios and finish this out.
Wrapping it up. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Be right back, guys.
I'll be here. I have no need to leave my office.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have anything set up for break videos because I really don't have the software for it.
Yeah, well, give it time. I mean, would you say this is what your third or fourth stream? Give it.
This is my third actual live
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah, well,
Which,
give it
while
time.
everyone else
Things
is
will.
gone, while everyone else is gone, I'll go ahead and say this: the closest thing to a plug that I have. If you all like this content, if you want to see more of this content, feel free to send me emails because going forward, videos that fall into this category, they are going to originate based off of things that I'm seeing that viewers want to see. If you have a specific thing in particular that you really enjoy that we do, like last week's military stories stream, let me know and I will work something like that into a regular rotation plan. If you like these conspiracy streams, shoot me an email at gyowmando and we will look at, or I will look at whatever it is that you come up with. And if it's something that I have information on or catches me as being really super interesting, I'll work it into the rotation stream. I plan to do about once a month, I plan to do a quote unquote silly stream. Might be Cards Against Humanity, might be looking over some memes very similar to what Jimmy Bones does, might be just us getting together and just shooting the trash, doing trash talk about various topics that we see going on in the world. I don't know yet. Once a month, it's going to be a conspiracy, or one in four is going to be a conspiracy thing, kind of like this. And like I said, I'm working out the rotation, but with bi-weekly streams and videos, it's hopefully not going to be a lot of overlap. But I need to know what you guys actually like to see and want to see. You still there, Crusader, or did I bore you to death?
Oh yeah, no. I'm here. Actually, there's if I may, one thing I'd like to say is, you put out that email address. If anybody has ideas of what they would like to see you cover, email in a suggestion. That way you can aggregate the emails and you can look at and create a small poll of what your viewers are seeing. And that way you can kind of say, this is topic number one. This is a close second. If you guys want to see this as a topic discussion, email me and let me know what you'd like to see. And then do that for now until you're able to get a website up and get a channel going, more regularly and get everything else set up. But you're doing great so far. You just got to give it time to get things set up and stable and running.
Oh yeah, and Crusader or Red Pill Rhino. That's not the right one. That is a topic that I will not be covering. That one's been done to death, and honestly, it blows.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, those
Tommy, you're
words were
muted.
chosen to make it a pun.
I know.
Especially for sharks. There we go.
Right.
Well, at least no one has to grin and bear it.
Oh,
God
good
damn it.
one.
We need a shenanigans clip and somebody handing out a pistol to get pistol whipped with.
Yeah, we need to figure out how to do that.
Well, there's a few things on my wish list for this channel that I've got a list of prioritized what I'm wanting to add, what I'm going to add, and what I probably should add. Because there are quite a few.
There's a good one.
Soundboard items that I really kind of want to throw in here. And there's also quite a few, what's the word I'm looking for? Mini clips that I want to drop in here to break up the monotony.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But in due time, dude, you're just getting the crawl and the walk down, so you're doing great so far. But I think this is something interesting that you can definitely find a niche community that you can grow with.
Oh yeah, and honestly, with doing this on the community that we're part of, that I think this is something that gives guys in our community another thing where they can come and just talk about just some of the weirdness that they find interesting or frightening.
Yeah, well, it's also a great escape.
Exactly. Okay, so are we ready to go ahead and get into the next stage of the collapse of society to a Neolithic type state?
Sure.
Because essentially right now that's what we're doing. We're talking about how a society would backwards evolve from where we are today to where essentially where the Greeks were.
Yeah. Well, it would take, let's say, 50. Let's say we lose 1 year after an event like that were to occur. Let's say we lose 50% of the population. We go from 8 billion people on Earth down to 4 billion people on Earth.
Yeah.
Which would be a major depopulation event.
Mm-hmm.
Then
that's what a lot of people want.
Yeah. They don't understand how it's actually going to affect them with all their money that doesn't exist either, though.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, they think that, okay, half the population, I'm still going to be in a position of power and privilege.
Nope.
No, you won't. That's the big mistake most of those people make that have that assumption. There's an old saying that knowledge is power. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you know how to can things, if you know how to pickle, if you know how to hunt, you know how to fish. I mean,
preserve in any way, shape, or form. Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
okay, guys,
having that base of knowledge. Go ahead.
There's a reason why on Gilded, the channel I created, or the substream I created for this channel, is called the Armory.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is power, but information is ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
If
this has nothing to do with weapons in general.
Exactly.
This is all the tools. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because weapons are just tools, but without the mind or the know-how to use them, they are worthless, or even worse, a danger to the people who operate them and those around them.
Yes.
Well, there is actually another reason why I bring that up specifically. What does information and ammunition have in common with each other?
The quality.
I can guarantee you're overthinking this.
The information equals the quality of the ability of the ammunition to accomplish
No.
a
I
task.
think you're right about the
You're-
quality, but
Uh-huh.
because quality
They
ammunition
can
you're
both be a
still-
blessing and a curse.
Hmm.
Okay, I will give you that one. You can't use either one if you don't have it.
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, you just simplified it down to door.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
So-
he's right. We did overthink it.
So did I just gruntify it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gruntify it. I love it.
Well,
Good one,
you
Mando.
come into this as big brain time, and we're just thinking higher level, and yeah, then you do that to us. Yeah, fuck you, Mando.
They're not my type. Thanks for the offer.
Right. But yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so
having that's going to be a key.
okay, so we've gone into about a year after the event. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and fast forward to about 5 years after the event.
Okay.
Oh,
That let's just go ahead and assume that the old major cities have either been pretty much abandoned, or if they haven't been abandoned, they the number of people that are present in them are let's just say that they are so small in population that it turns into a mini feudal society.
I think that's where
That'll
they're
happen.
gonna go to because
That'll happen within
without
5 years.
instantaneous communication, traditional understanding of government breaks down. But having something more like a feudal system works, where you have regional commands, and you probably revert governments back to less freedom-loving and more totalitarian
Mhm.
because they need to make sure people survive, and they're going to probably do something that's militaristic or communist at that point,
Okay, so
where they're
about
going to assign people to different jobs, duties. Land is going to be appropriated
Mm-hmm.
for the use of the community or the people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's going to be a miserable existence.
okay, so now we're also operating under the assumption that during this 5 year period of time, they haven't been able to redevelop the old technologies.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't figured out how to get the electrical grid back up and running. They haven't figured out how to get any of this stuff back up into operational status because all of the records for that were put on electrons.
all
Well, they're
electronic.
on they're on magnetic discs that have zeros and ones that require an operating system to interpret what they're actually saying.
Or on CDs and DVDs,
Yep.
which are dots
Okay.
and dots. Yeah.
So, how long do you think it'll be before it gets to the point where we, as a civilization, don't look like the 1800s, but more along the lines of the 1200s, technologically and socially?
10 years.
10 years.
I'm not
do you-
sure because it all
again-
depends on the event that takes us out or that creates this Black
Mhm.
Swan event.
This is true. This is true.
If it's an EMP, I think everybody just kind of has the understanding you wait it out until it no longer applies. Because doesn't it, or an EMP, when it hits an area, you can't have electronics there, or they don't work after a certain period of time.
Well, once they get hit with the MP, they're fried. They have to be
More or less.
replaced. Electronics
Okay.
will work immediately afterwards if they weren't struck.
Or if
That's
they
what-
were shielded.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what Crusader and I were working on.
Yeah, there
But
is no real residual EMP effect.
No.
okay,
No.
okay.
It's not a radiation.
That's probably
effect.
a sci-fi trope then I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Or
it's
they
more
were
like a flash.
combining. Yeah, they're combining two things in your scientific one or your science fiction one.
Yeah, okay. One of the things I find really annoying with Star Wars is they have a weapon called the ion cannon,
Mm-hmm.
which when it hits you, you lose. It basically acts the way that they describe EMPs acting.
Mhm.
They like to show it in such a way where people they like to show it in such a way where people are not able to. How am I saying this? They like to show it where it can be directed at a certain thing, and once it hits that
Oh,
thing,
ions.
it's taken out of operation for a certain period of time until the breakers get reset and whatnot.
Oh, you're talking about the effects of the ion cannon.
Yeah.
Well, that goes deeper though, because you can deal with shielding, and yes, it'll short everything out, and then everything needs to be reset.
The thing is,
so
they came up with the ion cannon because they wanted something of a localized EMP blast.
It's easy to do.
It is, but like I said, for this theory, and right now I don't know if I should say thank you or something else for giving me that little credit there.
Red Pill's losing it.
Oh, I know, but then again, his computer's been fighting him, so could be.
That's his fault.
It could be data envy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be welcome on his stream again for a while.
Well,
Right,
I'll be nice
Billy.
to him. I'll leave him alone. Yeah, if he can forgive Billy, it's one thing. Yeah, understanding, like, let's say event X is a coronal mass ejection, much like the Carrington event of 1859. Let's say it hits the United States, and you would have China, Russia, everything on the backside of the planet. There will be an envelopment that would get some, and it will kind of wash over depending on how severe it is. But if you had, let's say you had electronics in a Faraday box or a Faraday cage of some type, even if you got a direct hit and you had electronics in that box, 2 minutes later, you're fine. You can open that box and literally have everything you had previously. Now, if we were to get hit by like a quasar pulse, or if we were to get hit by a like a supernova gamma ray burst,
well, isn't that no matter what, we're done?
We're dead.
Well,
yeah.
Yes and no.
Well, a nova, everything in our system is gone.
The gamma ray burst completely. No, you're done.
Well, the thing is with the gamma ray burst, one, the science on it is fuzzy because it's only ever theoretically happened twice in Earth's history.
Yeah.
And two, okay, this is going to go into astrophysics. It's not a strong suit for me, but bear with it. It's not a one-time event with the way the solar system operates.
No.
Correct.
Hypothetically, the nearest star to us that's capable of doing a gamma ray burst blew up. And the burst is about to hit our planet. It hits our planet, strips the magnetic field down to the point where we're getting hit by galactic cosmic rays. Cancer rates are going through the roof, in addition to however many people were killed outright. Due to the gravitational field of the sun, part of that gamma ray burst will shear off from the main body, come around and slap us again on the other side of the planet before going on about its merry way.
Yeah.
And in theory, that might have been what caused one of the mass extinction events before the dinosaurs. In theory.
Actually, that's one of the plot points of Star Trek 2. Because that's what happened to City Alpha 4.
Yep. Well, actually, what happened with City Alpha 4 was another nearby planet blew up and knocked it into a different orbit.
Right. But anyway, it's similar catastrophic event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no.
Okay, so reeling this back into the intended topic, because we've got about 10 minutes before I or before we hit the end of the intended end of the stream. We might go a smidge over, but I kind of want to keep with the 2-hour timetable.
Mm-hmm.
No waffles.
Hypothetically, we do not have the capabilities of restoring the technology, either from a Carrington type event, massive EMP type event, or even the Earth's crust rotating on its mantle 90 degrees and us having a NOAA event occur.
Noah, get the boat.
How long do you all think it would be before we turn into something very similar to the Neolithic clawing their way back up to the modern era scenario? Because I don't think we'd go Stone Age right off the bat.
20 to 50 years.
You know, it depends on who's actually in the pockets. If you guys have seen the Book of Eli, that one's a pretty good tryst on that.
Yeah.
It didn't fall completely. I mean, it was a trope along the lines of Mad Max, but and yes, they continue to go downward
You're talking
spiral.
about the Denzel Washington.
Yes,
movie.
that's the Book of Eli.
I hear Book of Eli, and I'm thinking of a lost book from the Bible, or
well, it's not even a lost book. It's actually a sub book of one of the old Jewish texts, I believe.
It is, yeah.
Okay, Broken Pine. Before we continue on with this, we are supposing, for sake of this thought experiment, the dinosaurs were gone for at least 15 million years before humans started making things that even resembled modern civilization. What you're talking about, that will be a very different conspiracy stream.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, we can go there, and it will.
Yeah,
be
that one's
very
going to have the
interesting, but
buckskin rubbers in your Brontosaurus mount. Anyway,
Right. But yeah, looking, let's say midnight tonight, we face Event X where modern tech isn't available.
Mhm.
1 year, your major cities are going to depopulate. And after, let's say, 1 to 3 year range, you're going to have the vast majority of the 4 million people, the 4 billion people, move between the, let's say, 30 degree parallel of north and south of the equator line. Everyone's going to move within that range just because that's going to be your Goldilocks zone. That's all going to happen in the first 5 years after that. Now, above and beyond that, the old knowledge is actually going to start dying off between 50 to 20 years after that were to occur. There may be some oral traditions and histories on how to preserve foods, and you will, at that point in time, create small...
that matter, but oral traditions about doing computer tech.
No.
And things that are highly industrially complex that aren't useful for survival without electricity anyways. Yeah, that will go away until somebody recreates the computer again.
So would you all say it's fair to assume that about 100 years after Event X, the things that we know of as real history in the modern world would end up turning into myth, legend, and similar thought process?
Yeah, 100 to 200 years.
Within 50 to 100 years after you're going to see that start to develop, 1 to 200 years, it's all going to be legend, myth, folklore. It's all going to go much like what we see Native American folklore and other Roman folklore and stuff like that. It's just going to be a repeated cycle of all that after about 200 years.
Okay, so yeah, Broken Pine, you are not wrong.
No.
In more ways than one.
Very true.
Because it would be dark in the fact that we would not have access to the technologies we have today to make life easier and safer, but it would
Yeah.
also be dark in the fact that ignorance in the literal dictionary definition of the word would be taking over again.
Superstition, witchcraft, all that good stuff. Yep.
Yep.
By the way, if you guys know anything about witchcraft, learn it.
Yeah,
I
exploring
did
it.
a while ago, a long,
Yeah.
long time ago. I had a girl I was dating who was a Wicca. So I looked into it and was like, wait a minute. Half of this shit is just smoke and mirrors.
It is. But
Okay.
the base of everything is how to live.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, we are at the hour and 55-minute mark.
Hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and do final thoughts here in a second, but before I do that, what in 25,000 years, what do you think, what do each of you think would be a surviving element of our civilization that whatever civilization comes after us is going to look at and say, whoever built this was some kind of a god? You know, the crap we say nowadays when we look at a lot of the other major items. Tommy, you want to go take the first crack at this since you were the
Yeah, I
first
can
one
take
brought
the
on?
first crack at this. Actually, you know, I think it's a lot like what the Romans did. The road systems, the aqueducts.
That's fair.
That shit will be remembered
Okay, that's fair.
because it will survive.
In some form, anyway.
Yes.
Okay, Crusader.
In 25,000 years, the only thing I could really see that would theoretically remain would be confusing and puzzling, would be like the major strip mining operations like Kennecott Copper and other big open pit mines that we have globally. They're going to wonder why we did that, number one. Number two, alterations to the terrain, like why did we cut the tops off of certain hills? Why did we do major things to mountain tops or mountain canyons? Or why did we put tunnels through mountains? Things like that that will last the test of time. They're going to try and figure out what we did those for. That's what I could see lasting.
Okay.
Major alterations to Earth.
Sean?
I was thinking buildings, not like the monstrosities of modern architecture, but maybe something within the last couple hundred years where they still used actual stone masonry to build buildings.
You're
So
thinking of things
maybe
along the lines of
more
Notre Dame
like
or
your
the Parthenon?
temples, probably older religious temples or museums, because a lot of them are built out of extremely sturdy materials.
The domes.
Possibly they could last 25,000 years. I mean, the pyramids. One of in the harshest environment for any structure to be in, it's still there. Granted, it is in no way looks anywhere near what it did 2,000 years ago. But yeah, I think buildings will, especially if certain skyscrapers manage to survive. I doubt it. I'm pretty sure decay over time is going to collapse the greater majority of them. Or earthquakes will, natural phenomena, etc. Because there's nobody there to maintain them. Or with the knowledge to maintain them.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else. Like you said, the infrastructure. How often do we have to repave our roads?
No.
Our roads are going to decay like within 50 years.
Well, the road itself will, but what was done to the ground to create the road.
Okay. I
survive.
Yep. No, okay. I retract then.
No, you're absolutely correct because the surface is a big part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but when Mando was redescribing his scope of the question, that's where I was like, okay, yeah, no, it falls within.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here is what my thought is on what would actually survive into the next iteration of humanity after the hypothetical event X. What little we actually do make using real stonework. The Vietnam Memorial Wall would probably still exist in
Yeah.
some
Possible.
form.
Possible, yes.
The
Mount
Lincoln Memorial.
Rushmore would
Yes.
still exist in some form.
Mm-hmm.
But anything made using significant amounts of metal or
No.
brickwork,
No.
that would end up going by the wayside probably within the first 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our mausoleums, I think, would survive. Some of our cemeteries, I think, would survive.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say about 99.5% of what we have that exists today will not exist in a form that could be identifiable as a point where civilization once was.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
right.
is that how we go back to the point where previous civilizations may or most likely could have existed, but because of time itself, there's no way to confirm it because there's nothing left
It's
that
been
we're able to
lost.
discover.
Yep. It's been lost.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has been lost. Now, Amanda, I want to challenge you on one thing for a couple of minutes here.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with things like mausoleums and cemeteries and stoneworks like that, grass left unchecked will grow, die, grow, die, grow, reseed, die. And what's going to happen is that old decaying dead grass is going to actually turn into topsoil. I can't remember what, I think it's for every 8 years, 7 or 8 years worth of growth and death is what it takes to create a quarter of an inch of topsoil. So if you take those calculations, into mind, something like a 2-foot headstone in 25,000 years is going to be buried under so much topsoil, you're not even going to find it. And mausoleums actually require a lot of maintenance to upkeep them where they're at now.
I'm
you
actually,
may find,
I'm actually speaking about the older mausoleums.
Yeah.
The ones created in like the early 1700s
Or
and
Greece
Yes.
or yeah.
yeah. But
I'm not talking about the stuff we make now using modern cheap tech.
No. What I'm referencing is, let's say, the old mausoleums from ancient Rome will survive because their climate will tolerate those kind of structures. Now, a mausoleum, let's say Minneapolis, Minnesota, is going to get destroyed. One in Washington, D.C., that may be 200 years old. Washington, D.C. will return to being a swamp that it was 500 years ago.
And
so
Louisiana is going to flood them all out.
Technically, it is.
Right. Yeah, it's a different kind of swamp. But things like that are going to be destroyed. Now, things, let's say, like NORAD or some of the train tunnels or some of the highway tunnels that are carved through the Rockies or the Sierra Nevadas, things like that are actually carved out of natural rock, those are going to maintain. Those are going to exist. Yeah, they're going to start to fill up with debris and things, but those will I think those will last much longer in the North American continent.
I'm gonna push back slightly on that, only because of the fact that our planet, even in geologically stable areas, is still a very geologically active world. And over over the course of 20,000 years, there has been a lot of changes on this planet.
Oh yeah.
So I agree with 90% of what you're saying, Crusader, but that one point I do have to point out is iffy.
But the other something like that, but now something like Kennecott Copper or some of the big open pit mines, yes, over years, over decades, and over centuries, those are going to flood and start to collect water. So what's the equipment and stuff down there is going to be buried under sediment, and no one will ever know what that was. It's just going to be a lake or a sea or whatever it may be. So stuff like that will technically still exist.
It'd be like the Antikythera mechanism.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and move into our final thoughts for the night. We're going to go ahead and call the stream. I think it was a very good, very informative discussion. I hope
Yeah.
people looking at this in the future get something out of it. I hope those of you that watched it this evening get something out of it, besides the fact that we're all just nut job conspiracy theorists.
I don't include myself in that. I'm just a nut job.
So
Oh yeah, I'm a high functioning idiot.
I'm going to let you give your final thoughts. I'm going to take you off the stream. I'm going to give my final end thing. I'll drop the link for the chat, or
Ugh.
I'll drop the link into the chat again. So if anyone wants to jump on for a few minutes for a quick after party, you can do so. Ask any questions that we didn't get a chance to address, and then we'll go ahead and call it a night on this system.
All right.
All right.
So, Tommy D, your final thoughts.
My head hurts. I'm gonna piss out, man. Oh, no, this actually was a really good discussion, and we should do this again with different subjects.
Oh, we will.
And probably make them a little more specific. I think that would draw maybe a different element of people to us.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm dropping you off if you have nothing
All
further. Okay, Sean St. George.
Final thoughts. You still should question everything, even though everybody has told you this is the way, this is how it is, and no matter what, it will never change. Especially when they say something like that. Because, like I said, either pre-show or during the show, the scientific method works, and it creates a fact up until new variables are discovered, and you have to retest your theory again. This will happen all the time. It will continue to happen for as long as the method is applied to determine fact, including historical facts. So keep on asking questions, keep on retesting theories to make sure they're still up to date, I guess you could say. And that's it.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to drop you off. All right, Crusader, your final thoughts for the night, sir.
Oh, well, as a wise man once said, all we know is that we know nothing. One thing consistent in life is change. You have to understand where you come from in order to know where you're going. If you can understand those enigmas wrapped in conundrums, you are a step ahead of everybody else. Always learn, always ask questions, always study, always take into mind different perspectives on things. So, always use the scientific method, always test theories constantly, and as soon as things change, you will be some of the first people to be aware of it. Other than that, that's about the only thing on my mind.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and drop you off and give my final thoughts and final salutations of the night. All right. Well, everyone, I hope you all had a good, enjoyable time listening to us prattle on about things that we, in all honesty, are probably not qualified to really talk about. Like has been said, always ask questions, keep your eyes open, keep looking around, seeing what's going on around you. Now, this is going to seem kind of strange, but I brought this up even though I consider myself to be kind of in the red pill side of things, because of the fact that in my way of looking at it, red pill means you are looking at things from a constructive thought process point of view. Conspiracy theories are fun for this because you look at things and you're trying to figure out what the truth of the matter is. Couple of the future streams I'm considering doing. I don't know when they're going to happen, but I'm going to go ahead and let you all know what they were as soon as I get this called up. Again, this could be the next time I come on. It could be in 3 months. I don't know yet. Lizard people and breakaway civilizations, time travel, and the Mandela effect. If you all have an emotional investment in either of those topics, shoot me an email, put a statement in the comment box down below, and I hope you all have a good one. Be safe. I'm not going to give you a pop safety brief because I'm not that good at it. You all have a good one. I am cutting the stream off now.